Meet Sam, the friend zone superhero.
Need a ride at 3 a.m.? I'm your guy. Broken heart needs mending? I'm there with ice cream and tissues. Spider in the apartment? Yep, I'm on my way.
But even superheroes get tired, and Sam is exhausted. Being the always there friend takes a toll.
I love my friends, I really do. But do they even realize what they're asking? Do they care?
The line between being there and being taken advantage of has blurred. Sam's sleep is a distant memory, his social battery permanently drained, and somewhere in the exhaustion and caffeine haze, Sam starts to crack. Sam's phone was a ticking time bomb of friendship emergencies.
I love my friends, I really do. But their inability to handle even the smallest hiccup without me is starting to feel like a personal attack on my sanity.
You knew he should silence it, take a break, but old habits die hard. It was a vicious cycle. The more he helped, the more they relied on him. The less he slept, the more he craved the validation of being their savior. It was exhausting being everyone's port in a storm, especially when your own ship was starting to sink. Sam scrolled through the latest round of messages, each one more ridiculous than the last.
Sam, help! Should I wear the floral dress or the little black dress for my third date? It's so important.
Then there was Jordan, who had somehow managed to lock himself out of his apartment again.
I love my friends, I really do. But sometimes, I wonder if they'd even notice if I spontaneously combusted from sheer exhaustion.
The man couldn't hold on to his keys if they were glued to his hands. And of course, Sam was the only one with a spare. As if on cue, a message from Alex popped up, pulling Sam out of his momentary daydream of self-immolation.
Yo, is it weird to ghost someone after 5 months?
It read, followed by a string of emojis that seemed to convey both anxiety and a complete lack of self-awareness. But old habits die hard, and Sam was a sucker for a friend in need. He sighed, typed out a response, and hit send, resigning himself to another day of playing the role of friend-zoned superhero. The city outside was a symphony of sirens and honking horns, but inside Sam's apartment, the only sound was the relentless ticking of the clock. He hadn't had a full night's sleep in what felt like a year, though realistically it was probably closer to a week. His body ached, his brain felt fried, and the only thing keeping him upright was a steady stream of coffee and sheer willpower. He loved his friends, he really did, but he was starting to feel like a character in a twisted sitcom, trapped in an endless loop of other people's emergencies. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, the shrill ringtone like nails on a chalkboard in the quiet room.
Dude, you won't believe this. There's a spider in my bathroom. It's huge, man. You have to come over.
Sam pinched the bridge of his nose, trying to massage away the burgeoning headache.
Jordan, it's a spider. Just, I don't know, get a shoe?
A shoe? Are you kidding me? This thing is like prehistoric. It probably eats shoes for breakfast. Come on, man, you're my only hope. Sam hung up the phone, already knowing he'd cave. He was too tired to argue, too conditioned to be the hero. He threw on some clothes, grabbed his keys, and headed out the door, the exhaustion a heavy weight on his shoulders. The brunch was supposed to be a relaxing break from the chaos, a chance to catch up with friends and pretend for a few hours that his life wasn't a never-ending emergency response drill.
But as I sat there, listening to Alex drone on and on about his latest relationship drama, I felt a familiar twitch start in my left eyelid.
Alex, oblivious to Sam's internal struggle, continued his monologue.
So I told her, look, I just don't think we're compatible. And she's all like, what does that even mean? I mean, come on, right? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Sam's eyelid twitched with increasing fervor, but as Alex launched into yet another detailed description of his latest Tinder date gone wrong, something inside Sam snapped. A fork clattered to the floor. Sam didn't even register that it was his.
And then, get this, she had the audacity to ask if I was seeing other people. Like, hello? We went on 3 dates. 3!
Alex was still talking, oblivious to the seismic shift happening within Sam's soul.
Alex, have you ever considered, for just one freaking second, not dating someone if you're only going to ghost them later?
The table went silent. Even Alex, the king of obliviousness, seemed to sense the change in temperature. Sam took a deep breath, the scent of burnt coffee and impending chaos filling his nostrils.
Years of suppressed frustration, of sleepless nights and unanswered texts bubbled to the surface. And another thing, maybe, just maybe, you could all try handling a minor inconvenience without calling me at 3 a.m?
He gestured vaguely at the spilled coffee, a brown stain spreading across the white tablecloth like a metaphor for his sanity.
I haven't slept a full night in weeks. I'm running on caffeine fumes and the faint hope that one day, just one day, you'll learn how to adult without me.
The silence stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the sound of Sam's ragged breathing. He looked at his friends, really looked at them, and saw a flicker of something akin to understanding in their eyes.
Look, I love you guys. But this isn't friendship. It's an unpaid internship in crisis management.
Sam's voice softened slightly, the anger draining away, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness.
From now on, we're instituting a friend assistance plan, like insurance. After 10 emergency calls, you pay a premium. Maybe throw in some back massages for all the emotional baggage I've been carrying.
He turned to leave, a strange sense of liberation washing over him. He'd finally said it. He'd finally drawn a line in the sand. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could teach his friends that friendship was a two-way street. Or maybe they'd all just end up ghosting each other. Either way, he was taking a nap. Sam walked out of the cafe and into the sunlight. The sounds of the city, a cacophony, after the stunned silence he'd left behind. He pulled out his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. He knew what he had to do. With a deep breath and a touch of morbid curiosity, he muted the group chat. Then, he blocked Kate, Jordan, and Alex. His phone, for the first time in recent memory, fell silent. The silence was deafening. It was also glorious. He imagined the chaos that must be erupting in his absence. Kate was probably having a fashion meltdown. Jordan was likely on the verge of calling an exorcist to deal with the spider. And Alex, well, Alex was probably just fine, actually. The irony wasn't lost on Sam. He chuckled to himself, a genuine laugh bubbling up from his chest. For the first time in days, he was free. Kate stared at her reflection in the mirror, her face a mask of panic. She'd spent the last hour trying on every outfit she owned, but nothing felt right. Normally, this was Sam's domain. He'd swoop in, assess the situation with a discerning eye, and pronounce judgment with the authority of a fashion deity. But Sam wasn't here. He was gone, swallowed up by the abyss of her own obliviousness and the overwhelming neediness of their friend group.
Oh no, what am I gonna do?
She tried texting him, her fingers flying across the keyboard with the urgency of a concert pianist, but the messages wouldn't send. A sinking feeling so settled in her stomach. He'd blocked her. They'd all pushed him too far, and now they were paying the price.
All right, deep breath, you can do this.
She took a deep breath, threw on a mismatched outfit that screamed fashion emergency, and headed out the door, praying that her date had a high tolerance for sartorial disasters.
The spider round 2.
Jordan tiptoed into his bathroom, his eyes scanning the room like a soldier navigating a minefield. The spider was back.
Normally, this was Sam's cue to enter the scene. He'd arrive armed with a glass and a piece of paper and calmly relocate the offending arachnid to the great outdoors. But Sam wasn't coming. He was gone, retired from the role of spider slayer and all-around life coach.
Jordan considered his options. He could call an exterminator, but that seemed excessive. He could try to kill it himself, but the thought of getting close enough to crush it with a shoe filled him with a primal fear that bordered on paralysis. He could also just live with it, become roommates with the 8-legged beast. He shuddered.
Nope, that wasn't happening.
He grabbed his phone, scrolling through his contacts with a trembling finger. He needed a new Sam, but who in their right mind would willingly sign up for this level of crazy? The silence, once deafening, was now a balm to Sam's soul. His phone, usually a source of stress and obligation, lay forgotten on his nightstand.
He spent the first day in a blissful haze of sleep, waking only to raid the fridge and switch between mindless TV shows and even more mindless naps.
The guilt, the nagging worry that he should be doing more, responding to their messages, rescuing them from their self-inflicted chaos, it was gone, replaced by a sense of peace he'd almost forgotten existed. He went for walks, rediscovering the forgotten joy of simply existing in his own skin without having to shoulder the burdens of others. He cooked himself elaborate meals, savoring the flavors instead of scarfing down takeout between frantic phone calls.
He even started reading that novel he'd bought months ago, the one that had been gathering dust on his shelf, a silent reminder of his neglected personal life.
As the day turned into a week, a strange thing happened. The panic he had expected to feel at the lack of contact, the fear that his friends would hate him for setting boundaries, it never materialized. Instead, a new feeling emerged: clarity. He saw his friendships with a new perspective, like a blurry photograph suddenly coming into focus.
I still love them, I realized. But love wasn't about endless rescuing, about sacrificing your own well-being on the altar of their dysfunction.
He realized that somewhere along the way, he'd allowed himself to become defined by his role as the fixer, the helper, the one who always had the answers. They hadn't learned to navigate their own lives, to develop the resilience and self-sufficiency that came from facing challenges head-on, and he hadn't allowed himself to live his own life, to prioritize his own needs, to pursue his own passions.
I miss them, yes. But I missed the version of them I'd projected onto them, the idealized friends who appreciated my efforts and reciprocated my love.
He missed the fantasy of their friendship, not the reality. The familiar ding of the cafe bell announced their arrival. Sam watched as Kate, Jordan, and Alex walked in, looking older somehow, like they'd aged a year in the week they hadn't seen him.
I'd agreed to meet them, drawn by hope and curiosity. I wanted to hear what they had to say, but I wasn't going to make it easy for them. I'd come armed with boundaries and a firm resolve.
He took a slow sip of his tea, meeting their eyes with a small smile. The brunch started awkwardly, as expected. Apologies were offered, excuses were made, but Sam listened patiently. He wasn't interrupting, wasn't jumping in to offer solutions. He was simply listening, letting them sit with the discomfort of their own actions. Kate stumbled over her words, her usual confidence shaken. She admitted she'd relied on him too much. Jordan confessed he'd weaponized his fear of spiders. And Alex just looked confused.
Guys, I appreciate you saying all of this, but I need you to understand something. I can't be your everything. I can't be your therapist, your stylist, your spider exterminator.
He looked at each of them in turn, his gaze lingering on their faces. The rest of the brunch was different, lighter somehow. They talked about things other than their own problems. They laughed, genuine laughs that weren't fueled by anxiety. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start, a step in the right direction. As they were leaving, Jordan turned to Sam, a hesitant look on his face.
Hey, about that spider.
Sam raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk tugging at his lips.
Well, it's back, bigger than ever.
Sam burst out laughing, a genuine, heartfelt laugh, and with that, he turned and walked away, leaving his friends standing on the sidewalk. He didn't look back, but he could feel their gazes on his back. He'd set a boundary, and the world hadn't ended. In fact, it felt like a whole new world had just begun.